All right, welcome back to week 3. We're going to do a very brief introduction to your assignments for this week. This is a full week where you do not only the translation but also the second assignment on your individual assignment and also the group work. So those of you who are not in Group Alpha will read between Friday night and Saturday night, read the report that Group Alpha does, and you will then do a posting on the discussion board concerning that. Doesn't have to be long, but it does need to be specific. So be sure to try to do a good job on that. If you're in Group Alpha, then you will begin your your group work this week. Hopefully you've already done some preparation and you're ready to go with it. So anyway, let's take a look at it. First of all, for the individual assignment, what you will need to do in you're dealing with Matthew chapter 5, 13 through 20, verses 13 through 20 here. You want to translate that, and then you want to post that English translation in assignments. The instructions are in assignments in the Sermon on the Mount course. Click on assignments, click on the name of the assignment, and then click on Browse My Computer. Once you've done your translation, then you find that file, Word document, and post it, and you will be ready to go. So that's on your Wednesday assignment. You have to get that in by Wednesday night at midnight. Then the second part of the individual assignment is going to be the exegesis, phrasing, and sermon outline, Senate sermon outline. Be sure that you do your exegesis and phrasing and sermon outline according to the rubric that you have in the syllabus and several other places. But be sure that you get that done and get it turned in by Saturday night at midnight. Group A, you have the instructions, I think, already for your group assignment. It's very similar to the individual assignments, but also note that you want to do this as a collaboration, all of it together, and you also will need to have it in by Friday night at midnight. So work on that, do a good job, follow the rubric, and make sure that you get everything done there. And then let me remind you again, those of you who are in Group Beta, you will be doing a response to Group Alpha's report, and that'll have to be done by Saturday night as well. All right, I think that covers your assignments, and so you should be okay with that. Be sure to contact us if you need anything. What I would like to do is to take some time to talk a little bit about the next passage of the Sermon on the Mount and just give you a little bit of information that you might find useful. I hope you will find it useful. But this is a section from 13, let's see, I believe it's chapter 5, 13 through 20 is the assignment there, and it has to do with the what Jesus did in following up on the Beatitudes. He's told us what our characteristics are as kingdom citizens in the Beatitudes, and now he tells us how we are to respond to that, what we are to do, what our task is. And he uses two metaphors as he does this, and the first of these is the metaphor of salt. You are the salt of the earth. Now, I think the emphasis here in both metaphors has to do with influence, and so that's what we're talking about. Far too often we're influenced by the world. Far too often we're trying to fight the world on its own terms. We're trying to outworld the world, out-culture our culture, or either we're trying to force our culture to fit into what we expect behavior to be. We need to remember something. People who are not Christians are not going to act like Christians. That's just the way it is. And they also Christians are going to face the enmity of those who are Christians. We just can't expect people who are not Christians to act like Christians. Neither should we accept Christians acting like non-Christians. So we need to be careful about that as well. But there are three key words, I think, here. The first of these words is salt. Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth." Now, salt does a lot of things. It purifies, it preserves, it is also a condiment. I think it's pretty clear in the context that Jesus is talking about condiment here. He's talking about what salt does. It changes the taste of things. It influences things, changes the flavor. And that's what he's trying to say to us. So that's what our task is as the salt of the earth, as kingdom citizens, is to change the flavor of the culture in which we live, to live with radical behavior that shows itself to be different from the world, the behavior of the world, that gives itself as a positive witness. Jesus is very plain. He said, salt that does not influence, that does not change the flavor, is not salt, not real salt. It is it's worthless, like sand. That's all it's good for, is to be cast out and trodden under foot of men. This word translated foolish is the word we get our word moron from. So you can just take the inferences and implications of that any way you want to, but it certainly has to do with a useless concept that he's talking about. And that's a tremendous failure on the part of a kingdom citizen, is to be useless. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we acting like salt, or are we acting like sand? Are we changing the flavor of the world, or are we so worthless that we're not worth anything except to be walked on, like that which covers the pathway and is used to walk on? The second word that's important here is the word light. Light is a positive force. We probably talked about this. If you've been around me much, I talk about this a good bit because it's such an important concept in the life and ministry of Jesus, also in the writing of John particularly. He talks about this in some very serious ways. Light is a positive force. Darkness is a negative force. You can't bring darkness into a room. The only way you get darkness into a room is to take the light out. And at the same time, if you have a totally dark room, you could bring a little birthday candle, a birthday cake candle lit. You could bring light into that midst of that darkness, and light dispels the darkness. It overcomes the darkness. And the New Testament makes it very clear that Jesus is the light of the world, but he is identifying ourselves with him. As kingdom citizens, we are to bear his light in us. He's the source. We don't have that light. He also points out here that it's very foolish to hide a light. Nobody would take a lamp in his day or a light in our day and stick it under a bucket. You just wouldn't do that. It would be absolutely foolish to do that. But the question that we have to ask ourselves is, very plainly, where's our light? What's it doing? What are we doing with our light? Are we shining in the darkness, or are we hidden under a bucket somewhere? Third word here is the word glorify. It's really it's a beautiful word. It comes out of an Old Testament concept, and that is the Shekinah glory. In the building of the tabernacle, God came to demonstrate his presence with his people. And that was called that Shekinah glory when he came, when he was there present with his people. And what it does is it reveals his presence, reveals the presence of God. And when God's presence is revealed, his character is revealed. And when his character is revealed, it is revealed that he is Redeemer. So I don't think I'm stretching this too much to say that what he is identifying us with, not only are we to change the flavor of our culture like he changed the flavor of his culture, not only are we to bear that light as it shines in the world, but we also are to be like him in that Shekinah glory that you see in the Old Testament, where we reveal not our own presence, but we reveal his presence and we reveal his character, and then the world is able to see that his character is revealed as Redeemer. That's what he is, and that's what we ought to be doing here. The parables demonstrate this so well. And if we think about the parables, they show the radical demands of this kind of discipleship that Jesus is talking about here, this kind of kingdom characteristics that we ought to be living in our lives day by day. I've told this story in several places, and I'll tell it very quickly here because I'm almost out of time. But the thing that's important is that the church be like this, that we be salt and light and reveal his glory. I've told a number of people that there are three places where I've seen the church being the church in ways that it is not normally. And sadly, none of those are in the traditional churches that I've had the privilege to pastor. There's been some of that, of course. But what's so dramatic is when I was in Haiti, I saw what the Christians in Haiti are doing. It's absolutely phenomenal. When I was in Cuba, I saw what the house churches there are doing and how they're growing and how they're spreading the gospel and reaching people. And then I've seen God at work now in 4 maximum security prisons in the United States where we do a baccalaureate degree. And as we have done that at Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola, it has simply transformed that prison. What it reminds me of is that these men, many of them who will die at Angola because of the length of their sentences and because of the severity of their crimes in their past, because they have been transformed, because they've been changed by Jesus, then they in turn are being salt and shining light and demonstrating the revealed presence of God in the lives of other people. And we've seen a total transformation of that prison that was once called the bloodiest prison in America. And now you have so many people who are following Christ and who are communicating the gospel in that place. That's what he wants us to be. He wants us to show that we are changing the flavor of our culture, that we're shining as lights in our culture, and that we're revealing his presence wherever we are. And I think that's the message of this passage of the Sermon on the Mount.